to say, like most of the presentations I do, if you've seen me present before, I do have a QR code at the end with a link to all the slides. So don't worry about doing like screenshots or notes or anything like that. You'll be able to get all the slides here. And if you don't get them, you can contact me anytime by email or Facebook or something, and I can get you those slides. It's just in a Google Drive. So today I'm going to talk about circle time in the young learner classroom. So, oh, slides go. Okay. To quickly introduce myself, my name is Martin Sedaghat. I'm from California in the US. I've been living and working in Niigata Prefecture for about almost 20 years now. Oh my God, it's been a long time. Um, and I came over as an ALT. I was a JET for a while, and after that, I was a homeroom teacher at a high school. But right now, I'm a preschool teacher. I've been teaching at a small private preschool this is my 6th year there. And so this is 0 to 5-year-olds. So what I'm talking about today is mostly in that context. But as I mentioned earlier, I think this could definitely apply to older students, definitely elementary school, and maybe even some bits for older students as well. I am currently studying for my master's in TESOL. That's through Birmingham online. And I do a bunch of other stuff with JALT. I'm the program chair for the Young Learners SIG. I'm a column co-editor for the language teacher. I'm also in the new art SIG, a JALT spin, and I should put LLP here. Sorry about that, James. I will add that, the Ludic Language Pedagogy group too. Okay. So today I'm going to talk about, this is kind of the menu for what I'm going to talk about. I will explain a little bit what is circle time, the benefits of circle time. I will share my own circle time routine. I have a little bit of advice, and then we'll have time for questions and people to share their own ideas and experiences. So what is circle time? Okay, so I guess if we're going with the definitions here, circle time would be a short gathering of children and their teacher to talk about the day's schedule, review topics, vocabulary, express thoughts, feelings, and to build a sense of shared community in the classroom. Um, and I'm sure most of you, especially those who were educated I mean, at least what I'm familiar with in the West, a lot of schools use some kind of circle time. They don't always call it circle time. There's different names for it, but essentially it's sort of like a pre-meeting or a pre-group gathering before the actual lessons begin. And sometimes things like show and tell would happen here, or they would talk about events that are coming up or go over rules of the classroom, all kinds of things like that. So I kind of thought back when I started working at preschool, I had a curriculum that I made, one week is about animals and another week is about clothing or so on. But I didn't want to just jump straight into the lesson. It felt kind of um, almost jarring that the students are playing and they're having their, snack time, drinking milk, everything's in Japanese, and then suddenly, bam, it's all English suddenly. So I thought I need some kind of some sort of buffer or something that can help to kind of turn on the switch for, okay, now it's time to study or learn some English and have this type of lesson. Also at my school, the English lessons we have are the only kind of formal lesson the students have, if I can even call it formal. The rest of the day, they're playing and going on walks and doing stuff like that. So my lessons are a little bit more kind of regimented. It has a beginning, it has an end. Um, so circle time, I felt, was a good way to kind of, get them into that mode. So I really thought back on all the different teachers and classes I had when I was in preschool and elementary school and so on. And I kind of took bits and pieces of that and also from other teachers I know and sort of made my own type of circle time. So just real quickly, circle time shouldn't take up the whole lesson. My lessons are usually 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes a bit longer or less, depending on the student's attitude and how things are that day. I wouldn't go for more than 10 minutes at the most for circle time. See, I'd say average, 7 to 8 minutes for this. So the stuff I'm going to show you, I don't do all of it exactly every day, but it's in general what I do. And this is the beginning of the morning lesson. At my school, we have 2 lessons a day, one in the morning and one after they have a nap and their snack time in the afternoon. And the circle time only happens in the morning. The afternoon is a little different. We go more straight into the lesson. Okay. All right. So there's lots of benefits, I think, to circle time. I know that a lot of people when they're teaching, or especially if you're going back and forth between different schools, time is really, you don't have a lot of time. You have to be very careful with the amount of time you have and how you use it. But I think that circle time can have a lot of benefits, and it's worth doing, worth thinking about. So first of all, it establishes a routine. For young children, especially, that's really, really important. I think a lot of them can feel very unsure what's going to happen today. I don't know the schedule, but to have that routine that it always starts with a familiar song or familiar activities and familiar questions can help them feel relaxed. And could kind of build their confidence that they know what's happening. They understand step 1, 2, and 3. So that can help them to kind of, get into the mode of the lesson. It's also a chance to check in with the children, just kind of have a very short kind of one-on-one time with them, see how ask them how they are. I always try to give each child some sort of, little compliment, like, oh, I like your shirt. That's a really cool dinosaur. Oh, I saw your socks or something. Or, oh, I saw you have a little band-aid on your arm. What happened? Sort of check in to show them that you acknowledge that they're there. You're paying attention to them. They're not just, this person sitting in a chair in front of you. You know their names. You care about them. It's also a good time to review and discuss classroom rules. I will show a picture of how I do that later. But yeah, that can be really important, especially if something might have happened in an earlier class, maybe the day before, and you want to kind of take time to talk about it. Oh, remember yesterday, some we were being really noisy, or it was hard for us to sit in our seats. So let's talk a little bit about that. How can we change that? What can we do today? Very, very important is to develop social emotional skills. This is a big interest of mine. This can also be done through other activities like games, but I think it's a good chance for them to practice, waiting their turn. If you're asking each student specific questions, they have to wait until you get to them. So turn taking, self-awareness, being able to discuss their own emotions, to express their emotions, but also interpersonal relationships. And you can do this with different questions, asking other students how other students felt, like, oh, how was Akira today, how is she today. So they have to actually pay attention to each other and consider each other's answers and emotions. Then you have review vocabulary and language points. Of course, this is a language lesson, so we want to bring that into it. Maybe even if the topic is body parts for this week, circle time can be a good chance to bring in some vocabulary from previous lessons and just, kind of get them thinking about it a bit, bring it back a little bit. And finally, to set the tone for the rest of the lesson. This is probably one of the most important for me, to sort of show them, okay, this is what we're going to do for the lesson. Some lessons are more active, some are more quiet, but this can be a way to show, okay, we have started the lesson, we have certain expectations for us to pay attention, to sit down, to look at me, to listen, that kind of thing. So this is that trigger, that switch to turn that on. Okay. So here's my general circle time routine. As I mentioned before, I don't do all of these every single time, but usually I do six or seven of them. And it is usually in this order. So I'm going to be going through these one at a time, showing pictures and explaining why I do it and giving some suggestions if this is something that you would be interested in trying in your own lessons. So uh, first of all, okay, so I should describe my school a little bit. It's a very, very small school. We have a maximum of 19 students. And in these classes I'm teaching, there's usually we have sort of split them into two. So it's 8 to 10 students per class. So the students go in there with the teachers. The teachers got to get them sort of settle down and sit down. And then I come in. I have a different room. I'm sort of in the office. So I come in, and the first thing we do is the hello song. And I really recommend this channel down here. Probably some people are familiar with this. Super simple songs. If you search them on YouTube, they have a ton of songs. I really, really like this channel, these creators, especially because their songs are just like their name. They're very, very simple. I did look at lots of songs, by Sesame Street or Yo Gabba Gabba or other, popular artists or TV shows in America where I'm from. But a lot of those I felt were pretty complicated. They had a lot of extra language in there that I felt was a little too complex or high level for my students. So the good thing is super simple songs, even though it's quite a big group now and they have millions of views and they do all kinds of fancy animation. It was started by a group of English teachers that had a school, I think, in Tokyo. So it was made for English as a foreign language students. It was made for kids in the same situation as mine. So their songs are very, very simple, easy to understand. A lot of them have good gestures. So here's one, for example, hello, hello. And what I do is I have a song for every month. So I don't know if I'll have 12, but I do have a set. I have a folder of a set of songs and I keep one song for that month. So this month it is this Hello Hello song. As soon as we get to June next week, I'll switch it to a different one. So it gives students a chance to hear the song repeatedly, to learn the song, really get it down. But I don't want them to get too bored and go, oh, we've been hearing this song for 3 months now. Also for myself, I would go crazy if I had to listen to these songs too much. So it's a chance for us to switch and kind of get a new song. And it does take, when you switch that song, it's always the first few days. You get some kids, they're not moving, they're what's going on. This isn't the song I'm used to. What have you done? But it is, I think it's good to change it up a bit. So I really recommend this super simple song. So we do the song first. Okay. Once the song is finished, we talk about lunch. So every morning I get we have the kind of monthly lunch menu. For the whole month, it's all kind of set up. So I take that menu that's in Japanese and I translate it as best I can. I write it on the board. I made a bunch of little um, uh, magnets or little pictures with magnets on them so that the students have both the text and the visual. So for example, this day on here, we're having mapo glass noodle salad, either the kind of, I forgot the name in Japanese, the really, really kind of translucent thin noodles, apple, and then carp streamer sandwich, of course, in there with koinobori sando. So I translate most of it into English. There's some things that just, when you get into different fish names and stuff like that, I don't translate it too much. But I think that's something you have to make a call on how you know, how complicated do you want to get with the language? But just showing this, I've noticed some students, like they see the pictures. I don't have pictures for everything. Like I have the noodles here. I have the apple. I didn't have a picture for carp streamers, so I just drew it. There's some things I don't have pictures of, but some students try to read the words. So when they're working on oh, thanks, James. Harusame. Yeah, that's it. Harusame. Okay. Um, I notice when we're doing phonics, because I do a lot of phonics with my older students, some of them, they really, really try to read the words as much as possible. So it's even a little bit of them getting practice of reading. They go mapo tofu, oh, tofu, mapo tofu. Okay. They know rice, they know the magic E. So some of them just go straight to the words and it's a little bit of reading practice for them. So we go over the lunch and then we do the greeting. So I found that, I mean, I'm sure everybody asks, how are you to all the students, but I found, especially with little kids, it's really good to have a kind of chart, a visual. So I made this chart here. These are also pictures from the Super Simple Songs website, I believe, with some, simple emotions, happy, sad, angry, and so on. And we've done songs with these characters. They know the characters, they know the pictures. So for the youngest students, because I teach also the babies who might be 1 or 2 years old, they are not really verbal in Japanese or English. So I would have this chart and I would sort of say, oh, how are you? And I would hold the chart in front of them and they can point with their fingers at them to answer. As they get older, I would start to hold it back and I'd say, how are you? And hopefully they would actually say it out loud, happy, sad. So you kind of move in stages. First, they touch them, happy, sad. Then they can just say the words, surprised, sleepy, angry. And as they get older, they can start stringing them together. I'm happy, I'm sad. Recently, I was teaching I was teaching with a picture book called The Color Monster. This is part of the presentation I did at Pansig, where students learned a lot about these emotions and also how some emotions can be mixed together. So recently, my students have been, saying, "Oh, I'm happy and sad," and then that's a chance for me to ask, "Well, why are you happy and sad?" And I remember one student said, "Oh, I'm happy because this mostly is a mix of Japanese and English, of course, but I'm happy that I could come to school, but I'm sad that I had to say goodbye to mommy because she had to go to work." So them mixing these together, or like, "Oh, I'm silly, but I'm also sleepy because I woke up very early this morning." So them being able to see that you don't have that necessarily just have one emotion at a time. You can have multiple feelings. And you can, I mean, this is the ones I use. My students know lots more emotions than these. They've been asking me, sometimes they say even stuff that isn't necessarily emotions, like I'm interesting, I'm funny, I'm cute, and that's fine with me. They can add all that in there. So one student at a time asking, "How are you?" Okay. Then this is probably my favorite part. So today's helper. I remember when I was a kid, a lot of students had special jobs, like, "Oh, it's so and so's job to clean the blackboard, or it's this person's job to give out the stickers for whatever it was." So I wanted to do something like that in my classes, but I know that I'm responsible just for this one class. We have other teachers doing things throughout the day, so I can't make all these different jobs, and it also takes a lot of time. So what I did was I made kind of a list, these cards with the names of all the students in the class. So it's just a card with their first name on it. And so every day we would go through one card. So okay, so for example, today's the top of the card, the day's helper is Yusei, for example. Okay, so students are sitting there. I would have these cards. I don't show them the cards. They don't know who the next helper is necessarily. So I would make that a quiz. So I'd say, "Oh, today's helper," and then I look really closely at their clothing. "Oh, today's helper is wearing blue pants and a green shirt with a dinosaur on it." Or I can say something like, "Today's helper, his name starts with a Y and ends with an I." Or even, "Today's helper is sitting all the way on the left side, all the way on their left, this side here." Let me just have a quick look at the chat here. Okay, thank you. I'll have a look at the chat now and then. But if you do have questions, you can please write them or we can get to them. Um, so, okay, I say, "Oh, okay, today's helper," and then they guess, "Oh, it must be you." Say, okay. So you say comes up, and you'll see in the next slide there are a number of things that I'm going to ask them to do. But the helper, one of their big things is I give them a choice as part of the lesson. So on the left side of this picture, you can see a picture book with a bag under it. So for the morning lesson, that helper gets that bag. I give them this bag. It's just a simple bag from the 100 yen store, and then I sort of send them off to the bookshelf, which is, just around the corner. And so they go and they put a book in that bag. None of us can see it. I don't see it. The other students don't see it. It's their secret book. They choose any English picture book they like, put it in the bag, come back. Okay. So that's the book I'm going to read at the end of the lesson. After we've gone through all the activities, the games, the songs, but before we say goodbye, I grab that bag and oh, now it's time for Yusei's book, his choice. And I can give some hints even before I look in the bag. I can feel it. Oh, it's kind of a big book. It's hard. Yeah, I wonder what this book is. And then I peek inside. Oh, okay. This book starts with the letter D, and it has a purple monster. Does anybody know this one? And they mostly know because they love this book. Oh, don't push the button. And then I take the book out and then I read it for them. And in the afternoon, rather than a book, they choose a song. And you can see in the picture on the right here, I have a whole bunch of cards here where I've made a little card for every single song that we've done in the past. Some of these students I've taught for 4 or 5 years now, so I've got a ton of songs. And what I do is essentially I go through these, in order, these card ring. I take out three, so you can see three there that are separate from the rings. Those are the three that the student gets to choose from. I show him those cards one at a time, and right now, and a lot of stuff in the circle time I learned from the students. I used to be like, "Oh, which of these three do you want?" But now they want to do it really secretly. So the helper comes to me and I kind of turn, no one else can see. I show them one card really quietly at a time, and then they very, very quietly, very and secretly indicate which one they want. And that's the secret song. Then I take that song and I sort of put it back in the bag. I know what it is, and the helper knows. Other kids don't know what it is. And they're always asking, "What song? What song? What song?" And he says, "Nope, it's a secret. It's a secret." So at the end of the class, I go, "Oh, it's time for you say secret song." And then I play it. He knows. but they don't know. And as soon as they hear the music, they're ready. This is a really good way to kind of have them review songs. Some of these songs you can see here like bingo or whatever. Maybe I did this song, 5 months ago. I'm not using this song right now. I've moved on to other songs, but it's a way for them to go back and sort of review an older song, that they might like. So once at the end of the day, then I take out that song we just did. That goes to the back of the ring, and another song comes in. So there's always a choice of three that they have. All right, so that's the day's helper. So morning is books, afternoon is songs. That's the way that I do it. So daily topics. This is also part of what the daily helper does. So daily helper is sort of standing or sitting next to me. I have this little whiteboard I got also from the 100 yen store, and I made a set of cards with different topics. They're laminated cards with little magnets on the back. So this way we can check the letter of the day. We go through, today is U, tomorrow is V, next day is going to be W. We check the weather. We have a color of the day. We have a number of the day. Right now it's 1 through 10, but I've made 1 through 20 and 1 through 30. So for the older classes, we'll go through those. Also the month, and then the helper. He puts his name on it. And usually I give these cards to the helper. They show the class. I'll give it to you. So I say, oh, let's show everybody the color of the day. And then he'll show the color of the day and stick it on there. And sometimes it's all kind of mixed up and all whatever, but they can do whatever order they like as long as it's visible to everybody. So those are the daily topics. And I'll keep that on the board because in the afternoon lesson, I'll bring this out again and do it as kind of a quiz. And there's lots of ways to mix it up. Sometimes, I won't show them. I'll keep the board secret. So in the morning, they all saw it. In the morning, they know exactly what it is. In the afternoon, I'll flip the board over and I'll say, okay, everybody tell me one thing you remember from the board. One student say, oh, color is blue. Another one say, oh, one cookie. And we'll go through it that way. Sometimes I do a true and false quiz like, oh, today was Wednesday. And they go, no, it wasn't Wednesday. Oh, you're right. It was Monday. There's all kinds of different little quizzes and games you can do with that. So those are the daily topics. Okay. And I'll mention this again later, but I don't start with all these topics from the first day because they don't know these. I'll start off, when they're really young with maybe just colors, only colors. And as they get a little older, as they're studied, as they know a little bit more of the language and the words, then I'll add on numbers. Then I'll add on letters. Then I'll add on weather. Usually the days and the months are the last one to go. So this is something you can build up over time. It doesn't have to all go at once. That's a little too much for them. So build it up, add in the stuff. You could, do an animal of the day. You could do clothing, you could do whatever you want. So lots of options there. Okay. Class rules. All right. Um, Maybe people recognize the character at the very top in the middle. This is a book my students like or love a lot. Know David. And so yeah, it's important to go over class rules with your students. I think it's even more important to make those rules with the students. If it's just a teacher saying, okay, everybody be quiet, sit down, that's one thing. But these are rules I made with the students. After a while when we kind of got used to the class and everything, and I said, okay, let's, we need to talk about what is okay and what's not okay. So they came up with this, on the left side, okay, when you're in class, we should sit down. We should listen to who's talking, whether it's the teacher or another student. We should, oh yeah, that one is keep your hands to yourself. That's a big one. They love touching each other and pulling hair and stuff. So keep your hands to yourself. And at the bottom left, walk. Now, this isn't to say we never run at school, but my classroom is pretty small. The physical space is not very large, so I don't want them running around and crashing into the wall or knocking each other over. When we go outside, we have plenty of chance to run around. So this is for inside that classroom during English time. And on the right side, we have no, please don't just stand up randomly whenever you want or use a big voice and so on. And we go over these class rules about once a week or so. This is not every single time, but sometimes, if I can tell the students are a little bit antsy or something's going on, I will bring this out just to help remind them that these are rules that we made together. It's not just me saying this. They all came up with these ideas and agreed to them. So it's kind of their, this is their community rules, really. Okay. I also do, I don't really have a good name for it, just country cards. I was trying to teach students a little bit about other countries in the world. When I did this a few years ago, I just had flags. I just had a bunch of flag flashcards, but when I really thought about it, I don't feel it really meant much to them. It's just, oh, it's the American flag. Oh, it's the French flag, whatever. But I wanted to show them a little more. So, what these are, I mean, in the screen, it's hard to tell, but these are essentially A4 size papers, laminated, and each one has sort of four things. It's got the flag and the country name. It's got the greeting, how you would say hello or good morning in that country. It has a food that you might find in that country and something famous that you might see or do in that country. And I try to mix it up, I try to hit all the continents and all the areas. I don't want it just, American countries or just European countries. And I usually introduce one per week. I think now we've got up to, I want to say 25 or 30 different countries, and they know them. They know them. As soon as I say the country, they'll say hello. They go, oh, Statue of Liberty. You can do a lot of fun stuff with this too. One of my favorites is a gesture activity where I show them, I how do I say this? I mix up all the cards and I flip them over so I can't see them. I have no idea what the front card on this is. And I show them and they have to do a gesture. So no speaking. They have to use their bodies or a gesture to give me a hint about this country. So some kids might pretend to eat the food that is on there. Statue of Liberty is great because they all stand like this. Some of them try to make the letter with their bodies, like to make a U or an F for France or something. So all kinds of really creative stuff they do when we do this gesture game. Um, and I know that I have, talked to a lot of people about this. I know that when you try to teach about other countries, other cultures, I know that this is all very, how do I say? It's just a kind of introduction to it. I don't want it to be this like stereotypical, everybody in America eats hamburgers, everybody in France, just eats pastries. This is just a little quick introduction, some just colorful pictures and things to get them into it. I don't want to leave it at that because I do try to bring in a lot of picture books from different countries to actually show more about those people and their languages, the kind of clothes they wear, the type of families they have. I'm sure many people have, if people have seen other presentations I've done, there's a book I have called This Is How We Do It. If people are interested, I can show a little bit about it later. It's an awesome picture book which show the lives of children from different countries around the world, their daily lives, what they do for fun, what their schools look like, how they help at home, what their families look like. So that would be a way to take another step further into a little more deeper into the culture and just not leave it at this sort of, very just surface level stuff. But I think for really young students, this is a way to make that first step to show them, oh, there's all these different countries and things. So those are the country cards. Okay. So that's pretty much my circle time routine. Again, I try to get this done, in less than 10 minutes. Doesn't always, sometimes it goes really fast, sometimes it takes a long time. But I also wanted to give you some ideas for other things that you can do. So these are a few, there's many, many more, but these are four that I have used in the past. I don't use them now, I just don't have enough time, but they may be really interesting or useful for you. One that was fun was original handshakes. So we had the students make up their own handshakes, each week on Monday we thought, what can, everybody knows handshake, but what's a cool one we can do, like, oh, pretend to be was like a snail or, something, whatever you can see in the pictures here, or bump elbows, something. So this class made their original handshakes, and that's what we used for that week. Then we have Alphabet Yoga. That's the name of the book, ABC Yoga. That's a really cool book. I don't know, I'm not like a yoga person. I don't know much about it, but for each letter, they had a cool kind of yoga pose or just some physical version of that letter, the lion pose, koala pose. So when we did, oh, today's letter is L, then you could have the students, oh, show them the book, let's do the lion pose. It's a way to get them moving and up a little bit. Again, if you have room for it, depending on the amount of students and how energetic they are, that can be a really nice book to add a physicality to the letters rather than just saying it. Bottom left is question bag. I made a bunch of cards with common questions like what did you do last weekend? What character did you like? What sport do you like? And so on. So the helper would pick one of those randomly out of a bag, and we would ask all the students that question. That one can take a long time. I think that's why I stopped doing that one. I just didn't have time to ask everybody, but it can be useful. And the last one, the bottom right, is the phonics notebook. So very simple, just, simple notebook you get at the 100 yen store. And on each page, I wrote, a CVC word that they had studied. And so I'd take the book and, one student at a time, I'd say ready. And then I'd start like flipping, rifling through the pages, and they say stop. And the page I stop at, I open it up and I ask them to read that word. So it's like flashcards, but in a notebook form. I have one for 3-letter words, one for 4-letter words, and for my oldest students, I have full sentences that they can read. So lots of things you can bring in, just really, really quick activities, bam, bam, do it, and then move on to the next thing. Okay. And some advice before we finish. I think circle time is a really, really good opportunity to read the room. And what I mean by that is some of the students get there before I come to school. I get to my school at 8:30. Some students arrive at 7:30 or 8 o'clock. So I don't always know what's like going on in the school. I can hear them playing. I'll go say good morning. But until I go into that classroom, I don't really know what the atmosphere is like. And, some days, if those of you who teach, especially younger students, some days they're just not having it. They're fighting or they're crying or something's happened. They're just not happy. Today was crazy. I don't even know what happened. I think it was just the weather. Nothing was working. So circle time can be a way to kind of check that before you get into the lesson itself. So oftentimes I will have a lesson planned. I plan out everything. I have to have everything written down. And I go in the class, and as I'm doing circle time, I can tell, okay, this activity is not going to work today because these two are fighting, and those three, they're just talking about how hungry they are, and it's not going to happen today. So while I'm doing the circle time, because I'm almost in sort of autopilot in another part of my head, I'm redoing the lesson. I say, okay, I need to not use this game. I'm going to do this one instead, just because of how the atmosphere today, they're extra energetic, or today they're really sleepy, so I can switch it around. You definitely maintain the routine. As I said, the routine is very important, but the presentation, that's something that you can vary, you can change. Like I said, with the song, I don't use the same song every time. I switch it every month. With the questions or quizzes, or the way I even ask, who's our helper today? Sometimes I'll give a quiz about their name. Sometimes I'll give a quiz about their clothing. Sometimes it's based on where they're sitting in the room. So I don't do the same questions every time because that gets boring. You want to vary it, make it a little bit surprising. That element of surprise and mystery is really, really powerful. Then you want to build up slowly over time. I did mention this before. Start with 1 or 2 topics. Don't just go straight into the day, the month, the letter, the color. Do a little bit at a time. And as they get used to it, then you can add complexity. And finally, think about your classroom space and how you can use it. As you saw in the pictures, all of my stuff is really small and really portable. Everything from my lesson is in a basket. I can't stick things on the walls. I can't make a hole in the wall. There's no magnet boards or anything. That's just how my classroom is. So I have to have everything portable. I would love to have a big whiteboard, a magnetic board on the wall that can stay there the whole time. I just don't have it. But if you do have it, if you have space, if you can put stuff, on the floor to designate sitting positions or something like that, then, go ahead and use it. So, before you do your circle time, think about how you use that space. If you can put things around you, that can really add to it. All right. So that's pretty much what I was going to say about circle time for me. Here's my email address if you have any questions or feedback. We do have time for questions. And here's that QR code I mentioned. So I'm going to leave this on the screen for a little while if you want to take a photo of that or a screenshot or something. I will also share slides.